Hello everyone. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Sidereal Insights Astro Update for Monday, February 26th, 2018. Hold on just one moment while I share our broadcast into the Sidereal Insights group. For folks who want to watch it in there. And thanks for joining me. Kind of excited. Welcome to March. We're just about at March, aren't we? And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about on this week's Astro Update is what we have coming up in the first couple of weeks of March and some things that we might want to do to get prepared for the Mercury retrograde happening later on in the month. But I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and share this live feed into the Sidereal Insights group. And so thanks for your patience while I do that. I really appreciate it. Not on my own timeline. That's not where we want to go. We want to go into Sidereal Insights. And join me. Oops. I can't type and talk and live stream at the same time. Is that okay? I'm not expected to be too talented, I hope. Welcome. I'm going to get my notes pulled up here. I have the broadcast ready so that if there's comments or anything on the feed, I'll be able to see them. But in the meantime, I need to find my notes about March. This is kind of exciting. This is a new format for us. We've only just started it in February, so we're not even a month into it, but every other Monday, what we do is we recap what's going on astrologically, the current transits and trends, and how we can work with them. And we do that so that when we do our new and full moon live streams at the new and full moon, they don't end up being too long. So thank you for joining me. Like I said, I'm Phaedra. I'm the artist and astrologer of Mystick Physick Astrology, and welcome to the Sidereal Insights Astro Update. I use Western Sidereal Astrology, so that may be a little bit different than from what some folks are familiar with. But I use Western Sidereal Astrology in my practice to help you reconnect with your soul purpose and to remember where you came. And my aim, as always, especially with these broadcasts, is to provide guidance on how we can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect our lives in a positive way. And so that's the perspective that we'll be taking as we talk about what's happening in the next couple of weeks, astrologically speaking, here on the broadcast. But thank you for joining me. March is busy. It's a busy month. There's a lot of activity going on to kind of, keep us going. Hi, Jonna. It's good to have you with me. I see that you're on the broadcast. Welcome. We're just getting started. So March is kind of busy, is what I was just talking about. Normally, here's kind of a for instance. Normally, whenever we, in a given month, we have two lunations, right? A new and a full moon. We have the sun, moon, and Venus changing signs, normally at least once a month, right? And then every 2 months or so, we have Mars changing signs, and then the outer planets take a bit longer, a year to a couple of years, or even longer than that, right? And so on a monthly basis, when we're talking just about like the sidereal monthly horoscopes, or any monthly horoscopes really, you're talking about the sign ingresses of the sun, Mercury, Venus, occasionally Mars, and then the moon, of course, changing signs every couple of days. Well, this month we have 3 lunations. We have a blue moon, so we have an extra new moon, or a full moon at the end of the month, right? And then we also have 2 retrogrades on top of our sign changes, plus Mars is changing signs this month. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of busyness. It's going to kind of shift things around. And so I think where we end up at the end of the month is going to feel energetically, it's going to feel and behave a lot different than where we are now here at the beginning of the month. So be prepared for that. There's some shifting going on, some discovery, some learning, some uncovering of things that maybe we don't have access to. So let's get started. Let's get started. That's a lot to talk about. And we won't talk about all of it today because we're doing these every couple of weeks. So we'll talk about the first couple of weeks of March and what's going on. But there are some challenging points this month and some interesting Piscean/Neptunian themes. So keep that in mind as you make your way through March. Some kind of fascinating themes around forgiveness and perhaps around like confession or things like that. Watch for those themes to come up this month. I think you might see them. So Venus starts out as far as sign changes, right? Venus on the 2nd is going to move into Pisces. Mercury is going to join her the very next day. Now, this is an interesting combination of planets in signs because Venus is exalted in Pisces and Mercury is in his detriment in Pisces. And they're going to be transiting this sign together, kind of side by side almost, at least for a little while, right? So Venus represents like the highest evolution of our values when she's in Pisces. So spiritual values, right? Not physical or material values, the way she normally represents when she's in Taurus. And so in that sense, that can be a reflection of like our cultural or collective valuing of acts of faith or sacrifice, right? Mercury, though. Mercury's a little bit squanchier, I guess, to use a modern turn of phrase. I probably shouldn't use that word on the broadcast anyway. So here he is, the planet of communication, right? Maybe gossip even, if you want to take it to an extreme, right? In a sign that represents secrecy and very personal things, right? And so, of course, you don't want a lot of talk and gossip going on about very personal, very secret things in your life, right? And so Mercury can act to our detriment when he's traveling in Pisces. And so that's one thing that I want you to kind of keep in mind this month as we move through the month, because he's here in this sign that's very kind of an unfortunate placement for in some ways, and he's going to retrograde here. And the retrograde, I think, is going to be the very fascinating piece of our experience later this month. But that's coming up. I say this month. We're still in February. I'm working in the future, as you can kind of tell. So watch what Mercury does, and be aware of how you talk and how you speak and what you talk about this month, and reflect and see if it does align with those themes that we're talking about. But Mercury in Pisces is going to be kind of a challenging transit, I think, because he is in his detriment there. And it's going to be a 10.5 week long transit. So it's going to last through March because of the retrograde, and all the way through a chunk of April or most of April. I didn't check the dates on that. We'll survive it though, Jonna. And I think in the end it's going to be a positive thing. And I think you'll see why once we really get talking about what this whole Pisces theme is all about. But we, like I was saying, we do have Mercury in detriment there. And you've heard the expression, right? Loose lips sink ships. If that doesn't say Mercury in Pisces, I don't know what does, right? But I think confession could be a theme of this retrograde, Mercury retrograde in Pisces. And I think forgiveness, because Mercury retrograde is always an opportunity for reconciliation, right? And so I think forgiveness could be a big theme in the next, 10 weeks or so as we move through this. I think we'll be fine, and I think we'll come out of it a little bit better at the end. But keep an eye on that. And we do have some Neptune contacts. We have Neptune conjunct the Sun coming up on the 4th, which is a fascinating one to keep an eye out. Watch that date, especially if you have any chart contacts with the degree that's happening on. Do I have it written down here? That I don't have the degree, only that it's in Aquarius, sidereally. But I can check the degree later and come back and comment on it. But that date is going to be interesting. This typically only happens once a year, right? This Sun-Neptune conjunction. And it's going to be an important date for Pisces Sun and Pisces Rising. So keep that in mind. And it could be an important date for our Leo Sun and Leo Rising too. But the Sun in the chart represents the self, right? And anytime we have contacts with the self, that's something that everyone can kind of notice in some way. Usually you'll see something that'll light bulb go off if you're paying attention. And so I would encourage you watch and make note, just to keep an eye on what is the Neptune conjunct the Sun theme for yourself, and especially for yourself this time around. And the reason I say that is because conjunctions, they can play off positively and not so positively. They're kind of unpredictable in that way. They're a very strong aspect, but they're not necessarily 100% good things that happen during a conjunction. It's not necessarily 100% bad things that happen during a conjunction, right? So you want to look at how that particular degree touches other things in your chart, and if it aspects them like through like a square or opposition, something more challenging, then then that you could go through some sort of like disillusionment kind of experience during a Sun conjunct Neptune event. Or if you have it in a much more friendly aspect to something in your chart, you could experience it more as kind of like an inspirational or enlightenment type of experience. So it all depends on how that point interacts in your natal chart. But it's one that I encourage you to like pay attention and see, like, how do you normally experience that from one year to the next. So March 4th, watch that date and pay attention to what happens to you. The 8th is a super busy day coming up in just about, what's that, about 2 weeks out. Mercury's going to enter the shadow of his retrograde. So the 8th, this is an important date in mind in terms of things that are going on. You want to be done wrapping up Mercury ruled activities by the 8th if you can. So this is making major initiations or buying big ticket items, anything expensive with moving parts, electronics, that sort of thing. Get signing contracts, any of that. So get that stuff out of the way by the 8th. Because by the 8th, Mercury enters his shadow. Things are going to start slowing down. He's going to retrograde later this month on the 22nd. But keep in mind, the 8th is when we start to enter that kind of danger zone. So most of the month of April, but you have, or excuse me, the month of March, but you have the first week to really kind of wrap up anything that you need to wrap up around that full moon. That's going to be really important that you do so. But also on the 8th, Jupiter retrogrades. Now, Jupiter retrograde is kind of an interesting experience. It's not necessarily as big of a deal as some of the other planets when they retrograde. We feel it as much as Mercury retrograde. In all likelihood, that's because Mercury is the planet of expansion. Or excuse me, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, right? And so when he slows down, he just kind of slows his rate of expansion, right? But he's still expanding, and so we're still feeling some kind of forward motion. So there's going to be a little bit of a slowdown around that, but it's kind of cool in that it's going to give us a 4.5 month window where, depending on where you have Jupiter in your chart, or Libra, excuse me, in your chart right now, because Jupiter's transiting Libra. So look to that place of your chart. You get, over the next 4.5 months, kind of an opportunity for a do-over. So whatever you were working on, whatever you had in development or that was undergoing growth or that you were trying to move forward in the house that Libra occupies in your natal chart, plan that out over the coming months as we go into spring and early summer. How do you want to approach that do-over? Because you still have Jupiter's protection there. You get a chance to go back and take a look at what you've been doing and figure out what's working, do more of that. Figure out what's not working so much maybe and do less of that. But get these things all in place so that by the time Jupiter goes direct, he can go direct like full steam ahead. Okay, so focus on that in the next couple of months. And John, I want you to think of, because I know you're a businesswoman, right? I want you to think of this upcoming Mercury retrograde as an opportunity to go back and do like a business review. Like go back and look over anything with your business that needs attention. Figure out, what those things are that you need to do, that you need to revise or, restructure, any of that stuff that you need to change or alter in any way. Get prepared to do that during the Mercury retrograde, because that's actually the best thing that you can do. And then the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that's a time when you want to be going back to your customers that you've done business in the past already. Go back to your old clients and make sure you're serving them well. Make sure, see if there's anything else you can do for them. If you have specials or offers that you're planning on having during the Mercury retrograde period, offer them to your past clients and your best clients first. Go back and do business with the people that you already know. That's where you can plan to be successful business-wise during Mercury retrograde like we have coming up later this month. So keep them in mind. Let me catch up to my notes and make sure. But now's the time where we're going to be wanting to look at what are we planning on reviewing, what kind of changes do we want to be looking at having to make while Mercury's retrograde, okay? But starting on the 8th, after that period, if you're traveling during that time frame of the shadow and the retrograde, be sure to double check your itinerary. Don't pack your schedule super tight. Give yourself room and flexibility in case you do need to make scheduling changes. Keep your schedule light and flexible. This is also going to be the time, I especially like the shadow for this, because once Mercury retrograde hits, you never know what's going to happen, right? use the shadow period to do things like back up your hard drive, back up your phone, like any of your electronic records that you need to have fresh backups of. Back up your website if someone has a website. So take care of the electronics and tech side of things. Double check your security, but make sure you've got backups anywhere you need backups, because if something goes wrong then with one of your devices during the Mercury retrograde, you've got what you need safe and secure somewhere else, and it won't take you as much effort to get back on your feet. You don't risk, losing something important that you might be in the middle of, okay? Because the 8th marks when we start to feel that slowdown. Okay, now don't forget, if you need a refresher, the Mercury Retrograde Survival Guide, I'll be sharing a link to the blog post that I wrote about that, but there's also a freebie that you can download. That way you can have something handy for reference, because this does happen 3 to 4 times a year. And there are perfectly useful ways that you can take advantage of the energy and kind of just roll with it rather than fighting against the tide, I guess. Oh, and here we go. So Jupiter, the retrograde, is at 28 degrees Libra. I knew that I had this written down somewhere. So double check your charts too and look for anything at 28 degrees Libra, the degree that Jupiter is stationing retrograde. Okay. So that's where you'll want to focus. But if you do have a planet or point there, pay attention to March 8th for possible news. Because you could have something come up that would be a recurring theme during that 4.5 month retrograde period then, okay? And then that same day, your rising is Libra, so you potentially could feel that really personally, Jonna. So that slower pace, you might feel that more than most, depending on whether you have other planets that are stronger in your natal chart. Jupiter then could, or excuse me, Jupiter's not the ruler of Libra. I was going to say Jupiter could be considered the chart ruler, but he's not. He's just retrograding in the sign of your chart ruler. Your chart ruler would be Venus, if we're using the ascendant to determine chart ruler in that sense. But with that being the ascendant, this is going to be a very personal effect. So having to do with like your self-expression and your self-image, having to do with the way that you look. So this might be something where you're really thinking about like making changes health-wise or physical fitness-wise, or you might be thinking about making changes even to your appearance in other ways, like your style of dress or your hair or the way you look, or you may be experiencing I don't want to say an identity crisis, because crisis isn't really the word that I would associate with Jupiter. But experience is. And so you may find that while Jupiter's transiting Libra on your first house, your rising house, that you are experiencing new ways of being. And probably through that expansion of experience, finding ways that suit you better or feel better than ways of being that you used to embody. And so you might go through this kind of discovery and sloughing off period through the retrograde. That would be more where you're like, oh, okay, getting settled in and deciding what to let go of in terms of how you want to be, how you want to self-express, the image that you want to present to the world, the way that you behave, that sort of thing. If that makes sense, Jonna. And if not, if I'm rambling, you can totally reel me back in right there, okay? So, but Mars, that same day, March 8th, right? We were talking about how busy March 8th is. Mars moves into Sidereal Sagittarius that day. And so we do have that Mars, of course, changing signs. As I was saying at the beginning of the month, that it would be busy. So that's a two-month long transit that we're going to feel. And Mars, of course, is an active sign. Sagittarius is a fire sign. So it's a little like pouring gasoline on fire. Not necessarily in a bad way, though, right? But he's going to bring activity to wherever Sagittarius inhabits in your natal chart, right? And that could be activity around communication. It could be activity around travel. It could be activity around legal action. And I would say those, especially if you have Aries Sun or Aries Rising, but those themes could come up in other houses while we have Mars transiting Sagittarius, if you have Sagittarius in a different house, if that makes sense. And Jonna says, that totally makes sense. That's good. That's good that we're doing well there. And you're always leery of retrogrades. You know, and it's wise to be, because they mean something different, right? It's a different behavior. It's a different environment. And you need to adapt your behavior to that energy in order to navigate it well. But the important thing, I think, when they're scary is because we don't know what that means. We don't know, well, what is that energy? What is it that I need to know? What changes do I need to make? With Mercury, it's almost always changes to your systems, changes to communication, changes to data, changes to business, changes to I don't want to say relationships, but like dialogue, right? With Mars, that would be changes to the way you do things, right? With Jupiter, it's experiences and understanding, right? You've got him transiting that first house, which is very much you, right? That's energetically you. So it's a very personal experience. But I think that you'll enjoy it. And Jupiter retrograde is not so scary. Not so much. And even the outer planets they're not quite as bad as the more personal planets in terms of how we feel them when they retrograde. In part because they retrograde almost every year. They retrograde for several months at a time. Also because they're more, generational in effect. So, but generally speaking, Mercury is kind of the biggest pain in the butt. In that regard. So that's the one you want to learn how to wrangle. But I'll share the retrograde survival guide again, and that way you can kind of brush up what you need to know. But so that's our first week, and then not a heck of a lot after that until we hit mid-month. We have Sun moving into Pisces on the 15th, of course, because the Sun sidereally changes signs mid-month. And so that's going to mark Pisces birth starting on the 15th of March coming up. And then, of course, we have the new moon. Now, between now and the new moon on the 17th, we have the full moon on the 1st. And so we're going to have another broadcast in the Sidereal Insights Facebook group. Inside the Sidereal Insights Astrology Facebook group, we will have on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Mountain, which is 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and I want to say it's really late, 1:30 p.m. GMT, or AM, excuse me. It's really late if you're in the UK. And I know some of my watchers are. But we're going to have our full moon releasing practice on Thursday. So join me for that broadcast, but that's not on the Facebook page. That's in the group. So join me there. Also, I want to give you a heads up. Some of you are on my mailing list. I'm going to be emailing you a bit more often now that we've made this change to the schedule, because I want to send out reminders to everyone in advance of the Sidereal Insights Astro Updates every 2 weeks in case you want to join me live. Also, if you want me to address anything, if you have questions, maybe you see a transit coming up in your planner and you're like, Phaedra, please will you talk about this one because I don't understand it and I want to know what's going on. That'll give you a chance. Just reply to my email. But I wanted to give you a heads up. You're going to see a little bit more from me. Hopefully not too much. I don't want to pester you, but I do want to remind you when the live streams are happening, both the new and full moon and the Astro Insights updates. Also, we now have a new YouTube channel, which is kind of cool. We weren't doing much with it before. We had it reserved, but now I'm actually uploading videos on a regular basis. So if you use YouTube, if you want to follow that, please subscribe to our channel. I'll share a link for that as well in the comments. March horoscopes are up. Yay. Now, until the 1st, they're available by subscription. So if you have the monthly or the annual subscription to the Sidereal Insights, the Sidereal monthly horoscopes, you can read all about March, and for both your sun and rising sign right now. Otherwise, keep it on the website. They'll be up on the 1st of March for everyone else to read if you don't have a subscription. And we'll have April up very early after the beginning of the month. So stay tuned. We're working. We want to be about a month ahead so that if you're getting that subscription, which is either $4.99 a month if you have the monthly subscription, so not bad, or $49 a year, I think, is the annual subscription. So that's getting 2 months free or so. I made it a reduced cost if you do it by year because I figured that's easier. But if you have the subscriptions, then you can read about March now, and we'll have April for you here shortly, not too much longer. And that way you'll be able to plan out your spring and, make vacation plans and, do whatever you want. with that information. But thank you all for joining me. We'll see you on Thursday at 7:30. I'm going to double check and make sure if anyone had any more questions. It was good to have you on, Jonna. Thank you for joining me. And we'll see you very, very soon. And I'll keep an eye on the feed. If there's any questions and comments at all, I'll come back and answer those for you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.